Good evening once again, one and all, and welcome to another incredible episode of the Celebrity Creator Show. How are you doing this evening, Kathy?
Brian, I am doing exceptionally well tonight. How about you?
Oh, couldn't be better. We have one of my favorite people and favorite topics to talk about tonight, and this gentleman has a great background. So why don't we just get right into introducing this wonderful guy and get on with the show? What do you say to that?
Sounds good.
Warren Whitlock, he is a best-selling author, social media marketing strategist, and publisher. He has worked with hundreds of professionals to create online marketing and publicity programs to showcase their expertise and create leads, sales, and profits for business. His new book is Profitable Social Media: Business Results Without Playing Games. I love that title. Please join us now in welcoming to the show Mr. Warren Whitlock. Welcome to the show, Warren.
Hi, glad to be here.
Fantastic.
Hi, Warren. Glad to have you on.
My pleasure.
You know, I got to tell you this. Brian was saying you're talking about his favorite subject and kind of interjected that a little bit. I've got to tell you, you're almost like, and you know, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, like a comfortable pair of shoes, because I know Brian has too. You've been around for a while, big Twitter guy and some other things as well. So it feels very comfortable sharing this space with you. Thanks for coming and joining us.
Well, yeah, definitely. I certainly qualify for old, and I've been walked on
I
a
didn't
few
say
times.
old, I
So
said comfortable.
old shoe is just fine. Suits me well. I like it.
Did I say old? I meant comfortable. I wasn't throwing in old.
I was.
Remember, we discussed the other day, I think I'm older than you. But hey, listen, let's get right into the topic. You know, we hear that bookstores are dying, and I may or may not have this right, but like Borders, I think, is kind of like out of here, and a few others. So does it really make sense for us to even consider writing a book today?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, it is, and Borders is gone. Barnes and Noble's had to shut down a lot of stores, and of course, if you go back not too far in the past, Borders and Barnes and Noble were the exception, the stores that were doing something. And then along came Amazon, and so there's a lot of little bookstores that have just gone away over the last 20, 30 years for various different reasons. That's not a new trend at all. The current economic situation and along with the idea that things can be distributed electronically have hastened that, so especially this year, where the Kindle's just taken off like crazy, along with the other readers. Amazon reported about halfway through the year that Kindle sales were already up triple what they were last year. So
Wow.
There's no doubt about it that things are going to electronic. But as long as I've been doing this, I've been teaching that the real value of being an author is not in having, you know, a warehouse full of books that get sold and a few pennies per copy to get back to the author. It's really about being an author more than can you sell books. And so that's what we focus on. We have been doing that for 8 years now.
That's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up about selling books, because that's the biggest question I've always had in my mind, and we get this in events that we go to, like Author 101, is how much money can you actually make writing a book? Now, it's probably not a direct answer, but a lot of people spend a lot of time writing books. Is there any return on your investment of time from doing that?
Oh, absolutely. Let me back up and talk about the two things that everyone in business needs. And I'll even go as far as saying this is true if you're going to be in the business of telling stories. You know, the Harry Potter children's fictional story would be the same kind of thing. But mostly when the people that I'm working with, they have businesses that are outside of the book. And, you know, even fiction could have that. But nonfiction, not reference books, but how-to books. So the popular business titles, and by business we're talking about any kind of business, not just the subject of business, but anything that somebody might do, such as healing arts, health and financial and self-help and cookbooks. I mean, all of this has something that goes beyond just the pushing the paper. And there's two things that everybody needs. For that matter, it goes to any business. And the two things are impact and income. You have to make money. You gotta be, if you don't have income, you're not in business. It's just a hobby. But the other thing is impact. And most of what we focus on is how to get the impact. And impact is people find out about you. You can able to share your message. A lot of the authors I work with, getting that message out to the people that don't already know about it is very important. Let me give one example really quick there. Dentist. Ask any dentist whether or not all the people in his community that should be coming in are there. You'll find out that he could grow his practice 10 times and still not ever take a patient from another dentist. Because what do they say? See your dentist twice a year and don't defer anything because of all the other complications can happen, et cetera, et cetera. Same is true whether or not it's a chiropractor, a tax accountant, dry cleaner, shoe shining, car washes, any service, any product. Somebody will say, well, yeah, the vast majority of the population isn't consuming it enough. What the extreme just came to mind, Arm & Hammer, selling baking soda to put in your refrigerator because they figured we didn't need it as much for the recipes. Okay, that's a rare example where there's, everybody's already got a box of baking soda. We got to dream up some other way to sell the product. But in most cases, most of the people that are considering writing a book could expand what they're doing. And so we talk about impact or income. And the interesting thing is if you try to do both at the same time, you're in trouble. You're like the person going to a cocktail party and handing out a business card or flyer to everybody. You can't get to know people and sell them all at the same time. Now, that could be a very quick transaction. You can say hello, have a handshake, and get right down to business. But we find that the more that you can defer that and the more people know about you before they ever say, hey, I want to do business, then, the better the long-term relationship's going to work out. So back to the can you make money directly off of the book, the royalty that can come down to the author, even if you're hand writing out every book yourself and you cut every piece of cost that you can. If you do the printing or you control it, you're self-published, call it whatever you may, even an ebook, the real profit for an author is not the dollars that they can make off of a book. You put, your whole life into learning a topic, and then you spend, weeks or months writing about it to create a book. You go through the process to get it available for people to buy. One thing's for sure, you really care about that subject or you wouldn't do it, and people know that. And so, and getting paid for that time is really kind of secondary. If, on the other hand, you have a following, let's say you have 10,000 people that you regularly talk to on a newsletter list, and then when you come out with a book, which may be the same things you've been covering on your blog or your newsletter or when you speak or just the basics, when you put that into the form of a book, a certain percentage of people are going to buy it. And so one of the things that really makes bestsellers is having an installed base of people that already care about you. When you come out with the book, they do it. And at that point, there is a little bit of cash flow out of having a book. Again, that grows if you're, if you've already got a Fortune 500 company and you're CEO and you write a book, pretty good chance that the revenue off of that will be something you need to worry about reporting on your tax return. It'll be some income. At the same time, the people that get to that amount of success already have an income. So I try to get out of that whole paradox of making the book pay for itself and worry more about the impact. And if you'd like, I'll tell you a story about how one guy got $1 million for had nothing to do with selling his books.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a Paul Lemberg. It's one of my clients from a few years back, and the story I have to disclose right up front. It's not me making any of this happen, because if I could turn a switch and make this happen, we wouldn't be talking here. I'd be off on some island and you'd be paying $1 million to talk to me. But unfortunately, I can't wave a magic wand and make this happen. But let me tell you the story. He had a self-published book before he came to me about his big New York publisher book that he had. And he told me the story of that, how he printed 5,000 copies. Today, I don't recommend anybody print 5,000 copies of a new book. It's just the print-on-demand process is just too good unless you have, you're working with somebody who has a track record and says, we're going to put this in the bookstores and we need 5,000 copies and they're going into distribution. But don't print books to put in a warehouse, even though the cost per book's a little bit cheaper. It doesn't matter how good your book is, it's just the odds are against you moving those fast enough to really have to worry about that. And one of the nicest things that ever happened to me was my book Twitter Revolution came out. It's the first book on Twitter. And so we printed up what we thought was about double the number we needed to put into distribution. And within 3 weeks, we had to go to another printing. It's kind of problems I like to have. But anyway, Paul prints 5,000 books, and he speaks. And last I checked with him, it was 6-7 years into the process. He still had something like 3,700 of those books left.
Oh my
the books
goodness.
just didn't sell. Sold them at the back of the room, handed them out as an expensive business card, all the kind of things we tell authors to do. Yeah. And one of those books wound up in East Europe. And a guy, how it got there, he had the book listed on Amazon, but that's about it. He really didn't have bookstore distribution or anything like that. Somebody read the book and said, this Paul guy is really smart. By the way, Paul is smart. And they liked his ideas, and they told a cousin about it in Chicago. The cousin worked for a Fortune 100 company and needed some of what Paul does. And it's $1 million. I don't, the specifics of what he got and how much he made, I'm not really sure on, but it's close enough to $1 million to say that it's that kind of a contract. I like using the million because it's a nice, easy number to round off. But, for full disclosure, it could have been 850. Could have been 625 and it would still be a good story. But now do the math. 5,000 books divided into $1 million. And what do you get? That's 200.
A lot of money.
$200 per book that he printed. And remember,
That's
most
insane.
of the books are still sitting in his garage. So if I could make that happen, that would be the only way to do it. I'd say, there's $1 million crack. Okay, then let's go out and spend $50,000 getting you a book so that book can get to the right place. Unfortunately, we have to rely on serendipity. I've got some tips and tricks and ideas that can speed up those kind of things. But at the end of the day, you know that if 1,000 people read the book, there's a good chance that one of those people has money and is interested in buying whatever your top dollar offer is.
That's amazing. Yeah, $200 a book is pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
I've got one where I'm more familiar with the actual numbers, and remember that's extrapolation. And in case the FTC is listening, this is not me. I didn't do this. The numbers are as close as I can guess, just to do easy math. And we certainly are not promising anybody they can do that. But one I am familiar with. We put out a book about lead generation, which I think is the best thing you can get from book. And the company was selling a course on lead generation. It was a $5,000 course that, depending on how you bought it, you could get a discount for, maybe even half that, maybe a little bit more. I think $3,500 was a common price. And they found that if they could get somebody on the phone that had bought a copy of the book, we did a promotion and got the book out with gifts when you buy it and that sort of thing. Became a #1 bestseller on BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com. It was #1 nonfiction. Patterson had a new book that Oprah liked that week. So we were #2 overall and certainly the #1 business book and #1 in all its categories. And oh, by the way, the books weren't in stock. Turned out that the publisher screwed up. The books weren't at Amazon, and so Amazon had a banner up. Or they might have been at Amazon, and Amazon hadn't checked them in. We don't know. It was a holiday weekend, by the way, not a time to launch a book. That's when he wanted to do it. And it's and so the banner said, "This book not yet in stock." #1 bestseller. So,
all right, you're killing me, Warren.
So we were very excited about the impact of what he did. He was arranging to give money to charity off the proceeds of this promotion. A lot of people were involved. A lot of the partners operating in the giving away a bonus when you buy the book made deals. Thousands and thousands of dollars were made by other people because we did this. And then he said, I've got all these leads. What am I going to do with them? Because one of the tricks we did was those people, when the books weren't in stock, we offered to ship them one. So
nice.
We used a trick that gave us the name and email address, physical address, and phone number of all those people. And they had been offering them a bonus, and they said, would you like a consultation with one of our people? And that's how they sold what they did. They said the number of people that bought that tripled off of a book compared to the other lead generation that they had done. And they put the value of each person they could get on the phone at about a 1 out of 5 chance, or if it's $3,500 on average, they were selling to the people. That was $700 per person they got on the phone with. So an immense amount of income. Now, again, the math's not complete here. There's the how many people bought the book and didn't opt in for the free consultation, and how many people that opted in for the free consultation didn't make the appointment. There's all that math needs to be done if you're doing a direct marketing exercise. But the one point I want to emphasize there, end of the day, that that somebody coming on the phone was depending on which salesperson I talked to in the organization, 3 to 10 times as likely to buy something. Wow. And the only difference was that they had purchased a book rather than just heard of the guy.
Wow.
And guess what? They didn't read the book. They started doing these calls before the books even arrived at the destination.
All right, Warren, I'm dying to know what's the title of that book?
It's called The Ultimate Lead Generation System.
The Ultimate Lead Generation.
Yeah, it's a book by Matt Bacak, B-A-C-A-K.
I was one of those that bought that book, Warren.
There you go. So there's a lot. I've met people through that program for years because Matt and I are friends. It's long gone. Again, you don't need the whole history of where Matt is today, but at the time, it just exploded his business. He tripled sales the first month the book came out, and mind you, it takes a while once you decide you're going to start allowing these people to buy, because he was doing the promotion for Impact. So it took a couple of weeks before we got him together with somebody I introduced him to somebody helping with sales, and they still managed to triple sales that month. And the next month they doubled sales again. Unfortunately, that by itself wasn't sustainable. Remember, he did this whole promotion as a kind of a give back, share the wealth, tell people about what he did and put what he teaches into a book. It's a very simple book. If you recall, Kathy, the book's not much to look at, but it has everything that he teaches when he teaches seminars, and it tells the whole story. But people wanted to engage with him more, and his business just was, growing like crazy at that time.
Yeah, when he was hot and had a lot of stuff going on, that's for sure.
Right. Well, out of all the people like that I know, Matt's the one who most often talks about what he's done to reduce the size of the scope of his business. And because that's one of the things you have to look at. One of the very first things I do when I consult somebody is get really clear on what they want to have happen. Because I've learned from things like that promotion there. It exploded, things got really busy, but all of these things cost money. I mean, you can go out, you hear about these guys doing, millions of dollars on the launch day for a program. Well, they've spent, hundreds of thousands before the thing starts. They're offering 50% and up on commissions plus bonuses to the people that are mailing them. And one guy told me about doing $1 million in a day, and that day got the $1 million frozen by the merchant account. Everybody involved wanted to get paid. He had to sit on $1 million for 6 months before the bank let him have the money.
Goodness.
So at the end of the day, he made some money. It was a good day for him, but certainly nowhere near the gross amount that they talk about. And so one of the things you have to look at when you look at planning how to promote and grow your business is what's sustainable. And again, this is why I love books so much. I can put out a book and people are still daily sending me tweets on Twitter saying congratulations on your new book, because they hear me talking about the new book. Congratulations on your new book. I really want to read your book on Twitter. And that book is going on 4 years old now.
That's funny, but talk about a great calling card, right?
Yep.
Well, so let me ask you this. We've all been connected in one way or another with people who write books, and you certainly with publishing and writing, and I mean, way more than Brian and I have even started to learn or know about. But one of the things that might be on people's mind is, how do we actually get a publisher interested in us and interested in what we have written?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, in some of the circles we travel, we quite often are very entrepreneurial, thinking about, I could do a book, I might self-publish it, or I might just go out with an ebook and blah, blah, blah. But when I go outside that realm and start talking to the average person, like for instance, I'll be going to the CES, Consumer Electronics Show, and speaking there on social media. And the average person that's even a speaker there, let alone the attendees, when they hear about it, well, I've always wanted to write a book. How can I get a publisher to pay me to write a book? I'm an employee. I can't think of taking off for 2 months to go write a book because you do something. Besides, I've heard they don't make very much money on that. So how do I get the publisher to pay? It's a very simple equation for the publisher, because I'll tell you what I do when I look at a project. And it usually nets out for me that I'm not going to buy a manuscript from anybody. So, but even the ones that are buying a manuscript have to go through the same calculations I do, which is, what is the income that's going to come off of that? Fortunately, I'm working on projects where the book is just a piece of what we're doing. And so we look at the book as an expense, and we can go out and spend, 10, 50, 100, 500,000, whatever the budget is on a book, and not worry about anything other than maybe covering the cost on that. Some other people are saying, how can I get, the check, whatever it is? And if the publisher's going to pay you $5,000 or $50,000, that's most of the money you're ever going to see because of that book. You might then addition go and plan on doing something else. I'll tell you the truth, most everybody never gets to that something else. And what interests the publisher is just plain and simple. Do you have a platform for selling the book? Here's a secret about books that I'm sure you know, but probably have never heard put quite this way. Nobody buys a book that they've already read. So no matter how good your book is, the chances are that the people deciding to buy it don't know what's inside of it. So they're going to rely on what other people say. They're going to rely on reviews that they read, and maybe a bit of a sample of the book. But for the most part, they're going to buy it based on your reputation. They're going to go to your website. They're going to see that, you're blogging all the time. You write on good subjects. You're engaging. They ask you a question, and you answer the question. And then they see the publicity. And a lot of times for, traditional publishers, they're looking purely at the publicity. Like Tom Brokaw decided he didn't want to be on the nightly news after 40 years of doing that sort of thing. Wanted to write a book. I'm guessing there's probably wasn't a whole lot of discussion about what the book was going to be about before they wrote him the large check, because he was Tom Brokaw. Yeah. So if you're Tom Brokaw, and Tom, if you're listening, why? If you're Tom Brokaw, then, go ahead. If you're on TV every day, if you're that well known, where millions and millions of people have known you for a long time, you've won the Super Bowl, you slept with the politician, whatever those things are to make it so you're well known, then you're talking about the fame, what you have. And again, that's the impact that leads to the income. And so that's the number one thing they'd love to see. And so let's say that you're the best carpenter and you want to write a book on how carpentry can make your life better, which there must be a book on that someplace. Then you send that book into the publisher and you say, I absolutely know that if people read my book, their life's going to be better. And they're going to go, yeah, but who are you? Well, I've been doing carpentry in my basement for the last 57 years. Well, that's good. Can you show us your list of the people who know that you do that? Well, my wife and kids, that's about it. You know, and they can't sell that book. They may be able to package that. I mean, there's a lot we can do. If you were coming to me and you were that carpenter, we start saying, well, what can we do to build a platform to match you with some platform that's already there? Is there a famous guy that wants to be a co-author, et cetera, et cetera? There are things to do, but just you writing the book, I don't have to look inside the book at all. It doesn't matter how good it is. I'm not buying it. And so the answer to the question is, just like any other business, you have to show them that they're going to get more value than what they're going to pay you. And that's when we get into the problem with traditional versus other ways of selling books today. The traditional model of selling books, at least in our lifetime, may have been different 100 years ago, but in our lifetimes, the way that books are sold is find a good idea with the platform, produce something, put out 20 to 50 books, and have one make back all the costs that it took to produce all those books. Publishing can be extremely profitable when you get a hit. You sell 1 million copies of something and make $1 a piece, it's a nice payday. If you make $2 a piece, which is probably, you know, what a publisher might make, even better. And then once you sold the first million, the second million is a little bit easier. You know what they say about that second million. So, and you come out with the other edition, and et cetera, et cetera. Then you got a franchise, you can do something. But taking an unknown author on a topic that may or may not be of interest to anybody and trying to push it out is just, they've never done a good job of this. And today, they're desperate. They don't want that. What they want is a TV celebrity to put out another book. And just saw one interviewed recently, and it was Dennis Leary being interviewed by Jon Stewart, and they're old friends. And of course, you know, they both tend to be a little bit funny and cutting up and that sort of thing. And so Dennis is making jokes about John and his book and whatnot, how good it was, and saying in a lighthearted way. And John says, well, yeah, but look at your book. I mean, you shot right to the New York Times without any problem at all. And, you know, and then he described the book. And I can't even paraphrase what he said, but it was basically like, you know, well, we just put out anything and it sold. You were buying the book because it was the Dennis Leary book. You weren't buying a book because of anything that was in it. So let go of any idea of selling your knowledge or your proprietary information and go from there. Now, there's some exceptions to this. Great literature is there. A research book, if you've been, you know, studying how to, cure cancer with a salad fork, you have some breakthrough idea like that. By all means, get the information out. Today, there's some other ways to get information out besides the book. I wouldn't discourage anybody from writing, and as an avid reader and see books in the background, and an author myself, I'm even offended that I have to say most of the books that sell are never going to be read, and when we market them, we might as well staple them shut. Oh, what offensive terms. But the truth is, when it comes to marketing, it's not about the content. It's not about your prose. If you write bad, somebody can help. Somebody can fix it. And so what really matters is, do you have a platform? So we always start by telling people to build a platform.
Fantastic. I got a question along these lines, but before we move forward, I want to make sure everyone knows to take this one action. Well, actually 2 actions. You'll notice on this page, as we are streaming live on celebritycreators.com, as we are live, beneath us, you'll see this dapper, handsome guy. I think it's this way, in a picture. Just beneath us, that happens to be Mr. Warren Whitlock. He's not moving. He's not the live guy, but after the show's over, not now, after the show's over, click right on his nose. That way you won't miss the link that goes to, and that will take you directly to his Facebook page, where you can get connected with him, become a friend. He is actually really friendly online. I've followed his tweets, his Google Plus posts, his Facebook posts. He's all over the place all the time. I don't know how you do it, to be honest. You're using all these different platforms. I see those come through. This guy knows social media and how to utilize it. But in addition to that, you see an image of his book also beneath, and that is the book. If you want to hold that up, Warren, he's already got a copy right there in his office. Profitable Social Media. And that second one, Business Results Without Playing Games. It's a great book. I just got it on a little Kindle app on my cell phone. I've read nearly halfway through it. It's very engaging, and definitely going to finish that really soon. But after the show, first click on his nose.
Where are you?
And then second, click on the book image beneath us. And what will happen when they go there, Warren? When they go to their
so you're setting into the Profitable Social Media site?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you'll get links to the book. We're adding a lot more to that. It's a new phase of business for me. I'm being asked to do more and more in social media. I've resisted to this day. We wrote, the story of how we wrote Twitter Revolution was I was promoting books and I wanted to get access to the bloggers and thought leaders. And I did the typical internet marketing approach. I went and joined Facebook and Twitter back in 2007 and started using all the things you've heard about, how to build a lot of followers and grow fast, and how could you do something to try to get them over to your website. And as I'm trying this, I noticed the people that were on back then were people I wanted to talk to. And so I'm going like, well, I better change or use my real name instead of keywords for my Twitter handle and actually have conversations with people. Once I figured out to do that, I figured out just like email before it and websites in general and everything else I've ever done, the more you can be connected with people, the better. And this just was like you say, I do it a whole lot. I've been online for 30 years. I've tried a few things. What I found out was that the people that really had the audiences that I wanted to connect to, those thought leaders, bloggers that had tens of thousands of people subscribed, people that already spoke, keynote speaks, making, $20,000, $30,000 per speech. Those people were online and talking using this newfangled thing called Twitter. I have a tech background, so I was able to get on and talk when there was the tech people, and that's what I found out. So that's what that's how I came to do a Twitter book. Because of that, I keep getting asked to speak for social media conferences and things like that. And then ultimately, I met up with the guys that helped me write Profitable Social Media. We took up my radio show, which is Social Media Radio, and which you can find out more on any of those sites you click on. And we started, transcribing those interviews, putting them together. We found out there was a lot more depth. So today, go to Profitable Social Media. You'll see what I'm up to. Tomorrow it's going to be different. It's different than it was 24 hours ago. Right now, the big thing there is it's got the link to where to get the book for $2.99. Yeah. That will be changing, and you'll get the book at the regular price, and I'm sure we'll be offering some other kind of goodies. But remember, social media is not about, is there some trick I can do to build a big list and then get them to buy stuff? Because just like you don't like to hear from friends asking you to buy something, everybody else feels the same way.
Right.
It is a way to get to know people, to talk to more people. The reason I'm talking to you here right now is because I get to talk to, I like talking to the two of you, but I like to talk to more people than just that. And the reason I do Twitter, especially Twitter, I actually spend more time on Facebook than Twitter. But what I love about Twitter, and the reason we picked that to write the book, besides the fact that we thought it would catch on and would be a nice book title, the social media revolution really is about being able to reach a lot of people and really talk to them rather than just blasting out a message. So it's no longer about can you talk to everybody. And let's tie this back into books, because that's what we're talking about this hour. What I have found is most authors don't mind you contacting them, and it really has always been that way. If 40 years ago you'd read a book and you wanted to call up the author, you probably could get him on the telephone. I didn't know that at the time. I thought, especially famous people, and what I found from getting a little bit of fame myself in this, if you will, at least in small circles, was that everybody is like this, and that if I reach out to somebody who I've always been fond of, I've been reading their books for 20, 30 years, and when I meet that person in public, they like it that I say, I read your book, it was great. because a lot of people buy the books and don't read them. That's why they wrote them.
Right.
Same as you when you write your book, you know. And so when you really connect with somebody, I'll tell you exactly what I do. I first of all, a lot of the new books I find out about, besides seeing things on bestseller lists and what friends talk about and whatnot in the news, one of my favorite books of all time I got from watching Stephen Colbert on Comedy Central, where he was talking about a financial book. So, and I bought the book and I was like, blew me away that this guy, the smartest thing I could get was on the comedy channel. But what I do now is I use TED Talks. Some of the smartest people out there are making these 18-minute talks on TED. I find a subject I'm interested in. It really doesn't matter where you get the lead. You decide you're going to buy the book. A book is so cheap. You spend $20-$30 on a book. With the Kindle, maybe a little bit less. The best thing about the Kindle is that I don't have to store the books. As you can see, I'm not that tidy with storing the book. Run out of space a long time ago. And then what I'll do is I'll immediately look up the blog. And this is something that I didn't do 10 years ago. I was always a big reader, but I didn't really get to know the author. Now I find, thanks to blogs, you can find out if that author's posting all the time. If they're a reporter for a major old media source, they probably don't post a lot of free content. But if they're a blogger, if they're a new kind of person, the business of the future, they're going to be talking about it. Read a book called Fascinate by Sally Hogshead. I saw a clip of her speaking. I went out, I bought the book. I devoured the book, loved it. It's got a test of fascination. It's Sally Hogshead, Sally, S-A-L-Y, Hogshead, Hogshead. You go to the .com. I looked it up. I found her on Twitter and on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook. Whenever somebody gets talking about it, I include her in the conversation, and I get either a thank you or glad to meet you for the other person. Very short conversation. I now know that whenever I get around to being face-to-face meeting Sally Hogshead, I've got a friend. Total investment, including reviewing the book. I won't count reading the book because that did take some time, but I learned from reading the book. But my total investment at going beyond just being a regular reader and doing that, I haven't got an hour into this. I wrote a blog post. I included a photo of it with a link to buying the book. I went and took her test and suggested on Twitter that other people take their test. And then the other 10 encounters I've had with her over the last year. I've got an hour into this. But I've got a friend that is now somebody that is a thought leader and may become helpful in something else I do. And I think that's probably the most important message I have today. It's so inexpensive to connect with other authors and other thought leaders and other experts in your field. It's not like they're competitors fighting over the last crumb of business there is. There are people that you can grow by knowing. Just like, when I met you guys, with this show. I've got a radio show. I could be saying, we're fighting for interviews, but no, we're both looking to give more information and help other people. What can we do together? And it's the same that I teach all the authors to do. And you start off without a big lot of expense. And yes, do go to Authors 101 and tell Rick I said that. And
we will. He watches us, Warren.
Yeah, and do get involved with meeting people, and that's all good. There's nothing like live networking, but even beyond all of that, just go ahead and say hi to somebody on Twitter. It will make their day. And so that's where I got good at this. Now, after 4 years sending something like, I think I'm 75,000 tweets, I'm getting pretty good at saying something in just a few words. You don't know that when you're talking to me, but on Twitter, I'm pretty fast. And I like to joke that it's smoke and mirrors are that I really enjoy talking to people. And so what I do all day, if I'm stopped at Las Vegas traffic light, which we have somewhere you can sit through the light 3 times before you get through the intersection, I will send out 2 or 3 tweets to people. Never while the car is moving. But just like we can make cell phone calls while we're on the go now. And think about it in the old days when I was a salesman, we won't go back how long ago that was. When I was a salesman and no fax machine, no computer, and having to like call up, go and see somebody, sit in the lobby, wait your turn, be dressed, go in and see them. A lot more work than it is today. And it doesn't mean that we get to be lazy today. We have new things we can do with our time. And I absolutely love doing it because I like to talk to people. I love the smile that comes on their face. Let me tell you my very favorite one. On Twitter, there's somebody who goes by Pistachio, like the nut. And that's Laura Fitton. And she was one of the people who was on before me. In fact, she wrote the Dummies book about Twitter. And she's had a company that she just sold, done very well with being a leader in social media. She was a keynote speaker a couple of years ago at Blog World. I was speaking, and I also had a project where I brought in some authors to introduce them to bloggers to expand beyond their realm. So I had a couple of clients there. We're busy shooting videos, and Laura comes in as the keynote speaker. Had I known she was there, she'd been on my radio show, and we talked a lot of times on Twitter. I obviously would have went in to see her, but I missed. I didn't even know. So I'm standing outside shooting video. Get done with the video, I'm talking one-on-one, just having a conversation with somebody. And behind me, I feel somebody wrap their arms around my neck and give me a hug. And it's Laura Fitton. And at the time I'm going, oh, hi, I know who you are. And, by the way, my wife was standing next to me. Make sure we emphasize that in this kind of a story.
Disclaimer.
But I'm going like this, great. I like getting random hugs from people I don't really know. And it turned out that she was doing a keynote there, flying off to do something else, and then coming back for a book signing. And as luck would have it, her book signing was scheduled to be the exact same time. They try to do one at a time, but this might seem like a negative thing. My competitor with the Twitter for Dummies book was sitting next to me with my Twitter Revolution book. And we were signing books. It was wonderful. Because again, I'm not in it for the number of books sold. I'm in it for the connections and stories and other publicity I could do from this. Laura and I got talking, and we realized that all of our conversations have been on Twitter, except for about 2 minutes when she called my radio show right before it started, and we said hello. Wow. And then we did a radio interview, and that was all that I knew about her. And I'm thinking that woman felt good enough to come and hug me. That's just wonderful. And I've seen that kind of thing happen over and over again, where people I know online come up to me in real life and are saying, I know you. We talk all the time. I believe I had a conversation with a lovely blonde woman a few days ago. Who was that? Oh, yeah, that was you, Kathy.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
You didn't hug me, but, Here
you go, baby.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But we're friends, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time hanging out. That being said, once you get to a conference like that, here's what I do. Every one of the people I really want to meet, like thought leaders, influencers, things like that. And by the way, some of the best money to be made and relationships to build are not the people on stage, but it doesn't matter who it is. But it's nice with the people on stage. Is you go online, you find out who's going to be the speaker, and you start doing research. And you might be doing this already. You go to Google, check their name, find out where their blog is, whatnot like that, but take it another step. Reach out to that person. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Almost everybody will accept a LinkedIn invite. Tell them that you're looking forward to meeting them when you go to the event on Twitter or on Facebook, wherever you can. And then the big thing is if they're blogging, if they're talking about something, they have an issue they really care about currently. Notice at no point in any of this have I talked about how to get your book sold or how to get people to pay attention to you. It's all about paying attention to the other people, and all conversations need to begin with listening. So you go and you find out what's going on, what they care about. Case of Laura Fitton, she really cares about charity water. That's getting water to the billion people that don't have enough to drink. I mention it every chance I can. It's my favorite charity. What about a universal thing that everybody needs is water? Mosquito nets, food, education for the third world. All those are good things, but water, you die without it really quick. And so That's always been my favorite charity. And when I saw this, she was trying to build 3 wells at Christmas time. Actually, I think she was trying to build 1 well and it became 3. I can't remember the details of that story. But she had set up one of the early things on Twitter that you click and you go someplace you can donate money. And frankly, going through the process made me feel like, wow, if this is not the biggest scam, this is the most unorganized group I've ever seen. And she set out to raise $5,000. She raised, I think, 15 or 20. Went out and had the wells built. I was so, proud to be a tiny bit of part of that and share it with people. This is back before the Twitter book. And, loved the person and said nice things about her from then on. And guess what? That led to a professional relationship years later. And, then we get back to good old serendipity. These things are so inexpensive and so easy to do today. Laura has never sent me a check. I don't see whether that's ever going to happen. But I don't know where there's somebody who follows her who said to her, hey, I'm working for a book. I know you got the Wiley deal and wrote the Computer Dummies book, but I'm thinking of something like, I need to figure out where to go or how to do this myself. And Wiley's not calling me. What should I do? She says, well, maybe call my friend Warren. And that would be, I'll tell you, referrals are the way to sell. If you're doing anything and any kind of sales at all, and you're having to call somebody you don't know and suggest that they do business with your company, it's time to learn a better way. Because I hold that just like none of us like door-to-door salespeople, none of us like to get a cold call about a business offer. None of us like to be sold. We all love to buy. And this kind of thinking is what leads you. Social media, using books, networking with people is all about getting it lined up so when it comes time to make the money, people are coming to you and say, please, you want to join us?
I have to have it.
Okay, you can have it. Yeah, call me.
Hey, real quick, we were talking about some time ago about how to get a publisher interested in you and the kind of money that can be made as a result if you have a platform, if you have a reputation, if you're well-grounded, if you're well-known, et cetera, et cetera. What if you are one of those people that has all that? You have a good platform, you have a great reputation, you're well-known, well-liked. Can someone like that make more money with a self-published book versus going through a publisher?
I wouldn't, if you have a platform already, the first thing I would do is look at what you can do with the publisher. Have you got a hook? Have you got something they're going to care about? Today, it means you better be well-known online, not just well-known in the community or a good, successful business. A lot of people try to buy their way into these things, and there's an uphill battle. So do what it takes to get known in the community of the other authors on this subject, the public, be feedback, be in public places, that sort of thing. And assuming you get all of that, then absolutely I would talk to an agent before going any further. Because if there's something, one of them, I think it was at the Authors 101, I like the way he put it. He said, if you're going to if you've got a chance to make $100,000 advance and you don't get an agent, you're walking away from most of the money. They wouldn't even look at taking on a client where all they could make was the extra 15% that they're going to get. They're looking at doubling or tripling what you could get. Now, ask a publisher that question, and they will say, no, we can deal without an agent. That's just fine. But, by all means, talk to an agent. Now, if an agent tells you this is an uphill battle, we're not sure we can do this, we tried, we couldn't get anything, self-publishing is good too. Dollars per book, no doubt about it. You can make more money on self-publishing. If you're at that point and looking at that, follow Seth Godin. He's somebody that's made plenty of money selling good old-fashioned books and plenty of money outside of the book because he was Seth Godin who wrote the books. And he's a smart guy. I probably would have got there without the books, but the books were a big part of what he did. About a year and a half ago, he fired all of his publishers. He still uses some of the professional services that publishers can offer, and it's not getting the book edited and printed. He takes a manuscript, and if he's not selling it directly on Kindle and wants it in a bookstore, there are people that are really good at distributing books. And so that's the first thing I look at is, do you want a book that's going to appear in all the bookstores? I'm not talking about can we put together a promotion and get to the New York Times bestseller. By the way, if you want that, give me a call. It is something we can do. But kind of beyond that you really think that you've got something to say and that it ought to be in every bookstore and it ought to be there for a long time, then that is going to take a launch and a promotion and get to that. And it may be that you end up spending as much money as you get from the publisher doing that. But the publishers, with their ability to release a book around the world, printed in multiple languages, and the connections they have, that's when their network becomes very valuable. And so you strike a deal. I always think of, this is totally fictional. I have never met Mr. Stephen King, but I can imagine Stephen King deciding he's going to write another book. No, wait, another book. Because what is it, like every 10 seconds with that guy? But say he wants to write a book, or one of his students that helps him write books, or however they create all those books. It's time for another great Stephen King or Patterson or, any of the big people, their next novel to come out. I'm just thinking they don't call up the publisher and say, hi, can I get paid to write another book? Want any more? They're going to, they're going to have their staff of attorneys meet with the attorneys from the other side, hammer out a deal, and it's, and millions of dollars are going to change hands on those things. So there are pros that can help when you get to that level. If you've got a story that needs to be made into a motion picture, there are experts that do this stuff all the time. So usually what I do when I get to somebody like that, I start out by talking to them. 9 out of 10, it becomes, well, really what I want to do is generate some more leads for my business. And at that point, we use some of the tactics that we've talked about here. That 1 out of 10, when it becomes something that you've got something bigger than that, then when I make a couple of phone calls, we talk to the right kind of agent. I usually like to call my friend who says, don't bother me unless it's 6 figures. And I know a few people like that, and that's when you get into using all the pros to do what they do. And, just remember all of those great stories you've heard about books coming to be and being wonderful. Edgar Allan Poe self-financed his books. He was self-published. A lot of other famous authors are in there. Mark Twain went back and forth because of, whatever would sell best in his situation. And my favorite is another imaginary story. Again, please don't check the facts and tell me I'm wrong. Or no, do check the facts, tell me I'm wrong, but I won't say I'm sorry, because as far as I know, I'm making a lot of this up. But I can imagine that the story we've heard about a young mother telling her son's bedtime stories about a magic wizard, that everybody said, those are good, you ought to write them down. I can really believe that that's at the heart of how Harry Potter started. But somewhere between that and the major motion pictures and the billions of dollars and the richest woman in England, all of those stories, sometime along the way, there was a whole lot of really good professionals involved. For every story like that, there's 100 more where somebody got partway down the line. I've heard stories of a novel getting fantastic reviews. The guy writing it is a multimillionaire, has pulled out all the stops to make sure, all the options. So instead of money, he's taking more impact for this first novel. And it comes out, Russian financial crisis or space shuttle exploding or something, something big in the news happened that was unexpected. And the news cycles turn, the planned publicity didn't happen. Oprah had somebody else on the show, whatever. And, the guy, I think he made back $750,000 off of his $1 million he put into the publicity. Wow. Still a really good novelist. Still a lot of books were sold. But, end of the day, he's not, he's not known as a novelist. He gave up and went on to do other things. And so when you hear these great stories of a book being so good that it works, it's not just the chutzpah. It's the chutzpah on top of a really good plan and a lot of work and accepting there's going to be failure. The good news in all of that, today, thanks to the tools we have that are currently called social media, and to me, the biggest thing in social media is blogs. Because of that kind of technology and ability to get out content really fast, imagine, I'm not going to ask you guys what your budget is compared to a TV show of 10 or 20 years ago, but I'm guessing it's a little bit less.
Just a wee bit.
Yes.
So I
It
know
is.
my budget for getting here is a lot less than having to fly to some TV studio in New York City.
There you go.
I know it's
And,
beautiful because you are
as
down.
you can see, the lighting here
Megan?
is definitely less. And so, go ahead and try it. Try 20 things. If one of them works, it'll still cost you a fraction of what it did just 10 or 20 years ago. And if you have good ideas and are willing to share them, go ahead and start sharing them. Get out there, and the serendipity is going to kick in. That's from the book.
Awesome. I got to say this.
How's that
We are
for
like
hanging
coming
back
to
the
the
book?
close of the hour here,
Yeah.
but I want to get a couple of things in real quick if we can, because we're just like almost we're down to the wire. But one thing that I think is really important, first of all, a lot of our audience are busy entrepreneurs and professionals, like we all are. And so I think the question would be is where does someone start if they want to become a best-selling author? I think out of what we would want to ask you next and last, that would be it.
Okay, I'll give you my 4-step process really quick, and if anybody listening wants to know more about this, go ahead and send me a tweet or find me in someplace, in Google. I think 800,000 times, so you can. I'm pretty easy to find, but go ahead and ask, and especially if you mention this, I'll see that you get into a webinar for free on where I go into this for a couple of hours. But it's a 4-step process to me. You got to build that platform. You got to start with there. Don't even think of writing a book until you decide you're going to build a platform. Today, that means get known online. Make sure that you have a website, a blog, a Facebook profile, all those kind of things, and that you're active in these things. LinkedIn, you're talking to other authors. You're getting known to the other people that are in your field. That's step 1. Step 2, start creating content. And if you think that writing a book is, you sitting down at the computer or the old legal pad and just writing it out, no, that's like the slowest way to do it. What we've talked about today, combined with doing this maybe 4 or 5 other times, could be the basis of a book. You need a little bit better outline of saying what goes where to turn it into. But if you get an outline and you do some recorded conversations, you can get a book fairly fast that way. And talking to other experts would create the content really fast. Third, you got to have publicity. So you've got to do things like appearing on this show. So start lining up to do those. And at first, don't worry so much about whether or not there's going to be 1 million people watching or listening or whatever. Just do it. Most bloggers would love to have a guest post on their blog, and the secret to that is to let them do a guest post on yours, because it's reciprocal kind of an arrangement. We don't have a contract saying that you're going to be on my radio show, but I like you guys. I want you on my radio show.
Well, we would
you
love
ask
to
me,
oblige
and I
you.
want to ask you back. It's as simple as that. And you can do that with bloggers, with radio shows. Blog Talk Radio now has 20,000, I think, radio shows on. Almost all of them would love to have a guest on any topic you can imagine. I've been on hundreds myself, and besides my own. And again, the best way to get asked is to ask somebody else to be on your show. And then, of course, you've got to plan a launch for your book. That's step 4. A lot of people come to me and they say, I've got this book. It's coming out in a week. Can you make it a bestseller? Yes, if you have enough money, I can make a lot of things happen. But the right way to do it and the long-term best results, and the techniques I'm going to use, even if I'm speeding it up with money, is going to be get an internet presence, create more and more content, not just the book itself, but a lot of things to go with it, and put it out to the world to let them know. There's nothing magic in your book that people aren't going to be able to find out by Googling. Everything is out there. It's a matter of your curation, your way of talking about it, and building a relationship with people that you get by creating a lot of content. Content is king. Then publicity, and then a launch. And first thing I talk to anybody about when I get started with them is, if you're not seeing this as making you some money besides what you make off of each book, don't think of it as an income thing. If you want to write a book and share your dog training tips with the world just because you love dogs, go do it. I'm more power to you. But if you're expecting that because you wrote a book, you're going to get paid, you're going to get it to replace a job, go out, find something else about the income first, and then this will leverage it. What I like to say, and probably a good thing to close on, is that selling books has got to be a pretty rotten business, but being an author is the absolute best thing you can do for your business or your career.
Wow.
Awesome. 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 Well, I've got to tell you, we came to the hour so quick, and you know what? We have so many more things that we want to ask you. So you know what that means? We need to have you back on the show with us. But I've got to tell you, I am so thankful that Brian connected with you at Author 101 a couple of months ago. Like I said when we started the show, I've been following and connected with you for a long, long time. What I found tonight, Warren, is you are just exceptional. You're multifaceted beyond just the things with Twitter. I did not know that you were involved with books as you are. And I'm so excited, and thanks, Brian, for bringing him to the show, to have this opportunity to learn more about this very valuable subject for all of us. Thank you so much, Warren. I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. Thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, Warren, I can't say it any better than Kathy. And, just like they always say, just show up. And you do that, not just on Twitter, Facebook, and all the social media, but also you show up in person, in the flesh. You're there, and that's how you and I were able to meet. In fact, if you remember, it was late at night. I was talking to Scott Frischman. You were sitting at the counter eating.
Fat burger.
Listening in and nodding, I saw, and then we struck up conversation and met later in the weekend. And so that's all you have to do, folks, is show up. And Warren's perfect example of that. But I can't say what Kathy said any better. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence on our show. Tremendous value for our audience. We appreciate that. Look forward to being on yours as well. But we want to respect everyone's time tonight. We have run over just a tad, but that's okay. It's our show. We can do what we want. We would like to wish everyone a wonderful evening, and don't forget to come back next week for another terrific show. If you haven't done so yet, click on that register link above. And with that, all we will do is send you automated reminders of our upcoming shows. We don't spam or sell. We just reach out and give you the information about who's coming on and when they're coming, the next great show. You don't want to miss this next one either. But that's all we have for tonight. We will see you again next week. God bless, and bye-bye for now.
Good night, everybody.